Alrighty, is your liver going to heal itself the second you come off keto? That is a question I had. Is it going to be miraculous? Are the stones all going to fall out? Is all the used up bile going to fall out? Are you going to feel so much better? That is the question I got asked. I think I've kind of made videos about this in the past, but I'm going to just do directly as best I can. I know I rant. This is Ryan. This is High Carb Regenerator. Welcome to my channel. So I wanted to talk about this. I had somebody ask me this question, and it's a good question. When I came off keto, now this was coming on 12 or 13 years ago, so I don't 100% remember. But for those of you who don't know my story, I did keto on and off for about 10 or 11 years. In the beginning, it actually did what everybody finds in keto. It actually helped. I lost weight. I didn't realize why I was losing weight. I didn't realize I was poisoning myself. The weight came off effortlessly. I was doing an hour walk every day, 7 days a week, every day. No matter how bad my feet were hurting, which probably led to my surgery that I had in 2020. Different story, but so I was doing keto, and then I would come off because typical keto, you just feel like you're dying at some point, and then you add carbs in, and you feel great, and you're like, well, I'm gaining weight, and so the perpetual cycle that you're in. But at one point, I did start smelling like ammonia. I started smelling just terrible. I still, even to this day, do have a bit of a odor that needs to be detoxed out. I realize that, but it was to the point where my coworkers are like, dude, did you like bathe in Windex or something like that? Like, what is going on with you? And also another thing that I had going on is almost every single night, I would wake up and I was puking some stomach acid. So these are some things that I know a lot of others have actually dealt with when they are on keto. It's not fun. There's nothing fun about it. And what happened when I came off keto? Now, I will say this, when I came off keto, I did keep dairy in my diet for 6-8 months, somewhere in that range. Meat was surprisingly easy to drop. Even though I was eating so much of it, it was the dairy. It's the addiction to dairy that I had a real hard time struggling to drop. Like, I would go to, we would call it a mandate. I worked with this other guy at this bank that I was working at. And on Friday is surprisingly slow at the bank. If you're a banker, if you're a teller, it's surprisingly horrible, but I didn't do any of that. So I was a banker. And it was surprisingly slow on Friday, especially in the mid-afternoon. So we would just go out, both of us. We were the only two bankers there, but we would go out and get lunch because there was a place just right across the street that we like to go. And I was vegetarian at the time, and I was getting a lot of cheese. And then one day I'm like, man, just nothing's happening. I really didn't feel any better. I was like, I got to do something about this. And I dropped cheese. It was at the beginning of a month. It just happened to be, I didn't do this on purpose. It just happened to be at the beginning of a month. And I dropped it. And I lost 50 pounds, like 48 or something like that. Almost 50 pounds in 1 month after I dropped dairy. So I'm like, when people ask me, if they think they have to eat animals, the one thing I tell everybody to stay away from at least is dairy. That stuff is so bad. If you've got, disease, if you got whatever it is that you've got, dropping dairy will probably drop that disease. Now, I'm not getting guarantee. I'm not a doctor. If you got that kind of stuff, go to your doctor if that's your thing. But I will say I was shocked at how, I didn't even add any exercise. It just fell off. And everybody's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I dropped dairy. And they're like, yeah, right. Because everybody's so addicted to dairy. So at that point, that's when I really consider myself in the vegan world. And that was probably 2011. That was 2011. I think it was around May or June. I remember, unfortunately, I'm so strange. I remember things based on video games that I bought. And I'm remembering the games that I bought at that time, and I believe those came out in 2011 and in June. And I believe that's when that happened. So that's when I really went full vegan. I claimed that I went vegan in February of 2011, but I did still have some dairy, and I finally kicked it later that year. And that's when I did start noticing a lot of things happening. I was started puking up worms and parasites. It started coming out number 2. That would just be in the bowl. I'm like, what in the world was I eating? But I had a lot of meat and a lot of dairy. And, if you don't know anything about the dairy industry, you're allowed to have 250,000 cells of pus per cc, just little cubic centimeter of fluid. So that's a lot. That's a lot of inflammation, and that breeds a lot of stuff. So it's not good for you. It's built to build a calf's or a little cow's immune system. That's why it's got so much of it in there. So I dropped that. I was puking up, everything still, and I wasn't doing the juice fast. Everybody claims that you got to go on a juice fast to detox like that. I mean, I saw it happening, and I wasn't doing juice fast. I was doing 2 juices a day. One of them was green. One of them was like fruit juice. So maybe that did it. I don't know. But I did notice a significant difference. I didn't have the bags under my eyes anymore, like that real deep, like black almost, circle around your eyes. I didn't have that anymore. That was really about it. I have done some, quote unquote, liver detoxes. I really didn't notice a huge difference if any. I know some people have had some stones come out, quite a bit of stones come out. I've actually had stones come out when I did coffee enemas, but I didn't notice any real significant difference. The only difference that I really noticed was when I dropped dairy. That's it. So the answer to your question, and at that time I was living in Philly, like I said, and the system for getting your blood work out there was so stupid. I'm like, who created this system? That I didn't feel like dealing with it. So I didn't go and get my blood test done for that. So I don't know if my blood tests were different. I do know that my BUN is still low, but that's like normal on plant-based life. So some of my liver enzymes, I know when I'm really gaining weight, my liver enzymes do go up. And when that happens is actually when I've got a lot of protein in the diet. So if I'm eating a lot of beans or like the fake meat stuff, which I don't do very often, but beans, sometimes I'll get on this kick where I'm eating a lot of beans. I do notice that my weight will go up then. I do start having a lot more body odor. So I don't think my systems are still cleaned out at, 11, 12, 13, whatever years into this. It's unfortunate, but if you did keto or carnivore as long as I did, I don't know that you can ever fully heal. Maybe you can. I would think that would only happen if you were on raw vegan. There's so much residue that's left from starch. Now, if you're a starch eater your entire life, I don't think you know what we're talking about. I don't think you have to know what we're talking about. So I think if you're a starch eater for life, I don't think you're going to have any of these issues. But if you're somebody who ate the standard American or the standard Australian or the standard European diet of a lot of meat now, which it didn't used to be, but if you eat that diet now and you are just doing like a starch solution, or if you're doing a raw tofu, I honestly don't know that you can actually get to a point of it being fully out of your system. I have not gotten to that point. This is why I still struggle with my weight. My liver still hasn't detoxed. Should I go fully raw? 100% I should. Do I like doing it? No, I really just don't. I just don't. And the only way I can convince, I basically have to like bribe myself. I'm like, all right, so we got to do this. And the self is like, bro, I ain't shivering like that again. And I'm like, dude, we got to do this. And the body's like, all right, but you got to give me avocados. It's the only trade-off that I'm going to give you. And that's basically the conversation I have in my head. And then I have all these other conversations in my head, like, well, Durian Ryder or it's McDougall or this person, like Rogers or whatever, other people that I've interviewed, and like the fat you eat, the fat you wear. I haven't actually found that to be true. So maybe I should listen to myself. When I was doing fully raw, I did it for a couple of years. I was eating a lot of avocado, and weight was falling right off. So I don't know. Everybody's like, well, why'd you stop? The reason I stopped, I tell everybody this, the reason I stopped is I would shiver all day long. I was always cold. I remember this day very vividly. Sandy and I were watching this Tom Hanks movie. Whatever you think about him. He's a little odd. Whatever you think about him, but we were watching this Tom Hanks movie. I think it was about shoes or something. And it was so hot outside. It was so hot. It was so hot outside that the windows had condensate, like fog on them. It was so hot and humid outside. And I was shivering. I'm like, what is wrong with this? I was fine. I wasn't ill. I wasn't anything, but I was shivering. And so you can only imagine how bad it was, you know, when the winter came. So that's why I kind of made a trade-off. Now, I was 245 pounds, which to me, I think is a decent weight. I have no issues with that. I'm not trying to, you know, if you saw that I interviewed McDougall, I am not trying to be that 155 pounds that he claims I should be. He can keep it, man. I don't want it. I don't want anything to do with it. I don't want to be that slender. So, but I was doing kind of raw till 4 at that point. I remember I was at one of the post offices that I was at. I was working a lot, you know, so when on days that there were some days that I was gone out of the house for 14 hours and I would text Sandy. I'd say, can you make the salad that I like? And the salad that I like was just like 2 or 3 heads of romaine. There's, you know, those bags usually have 3 heads in them. So I would just have 3 heads of romaine. I would have falafel, which they don't unfortunately make anymore from Trader Joe's. I'd have a couple of those in there. They're vegan. And then I would have 1 or 2 avocados on that and some oranges and some other things blended up and make a dressing out of that. And I mean, I've teetered between 235 and 240. It's only when I've added in all of this, you know, Star Solution stuff that actually 50-50 plate was, I don't know which, I did a video about that already. I just don't know which one's going to come out when. So if you've already seen that video, but the reason I started this channel was because the 50-50 plate screwed me hard and not in a good way, you know, like that, you know, I don't, not in the way that I want. So it has been terrible. Since, you know, I did the 50-50 plate, I have not been able to be I've been consistently in 280s, and then I did raw last year for Lent, and I went down to 262. That was the lowest I went. But it has been a battle ever since that 50-50 plate. I don't know if I answered your question. I'm blabbering on now. But my answer to this question is if you really want to heal your liver, those starches that you probably can eat is just roots. I don't think rice is going to help you out. Now, I know that Walter Kempner helped people with every disease named with his rice diet, but in my experience, potatoes does not have the same, it seems to clear out of the body way faster. Like if you're constipated, I find that if you eat potatoes, it'll clear you out. Whereas rice kind of just keeps, you know, backing up. But I think that also has to do with what ethnicity you are. You know, I think those of us who come from a European background probably would have eaten potatoes. That's probably what we should stick to. If you're an Asian background, depending on where you came from, it was either potatoes or rice. And maybe that's what you should stick with. And I'm not saying I'd never eat rice, because I'm definitely never going to go with that. But I am saying that, you know, it really... I think the starch matters depending on detox and elimination. I know that these doctors don't agree with that, and I think they're a little foolish with that one. So anyway, if you're really looking to get the liver detoxed, raw vegan, 100%. Colors really helps. I know there's a lot of vitamin A in the color of the fruit and vegetable. Maybe that does some damage. I've read some of that. I think that's nonsense. But anyway, that's probably your ticket. Like I said, I haven't fully gotten there, but the closest I ever came was 100% raw. Anyway, comments, questions down below. Like, subscribe, and I'll talk to you in the next one.